to the InHERview podcast. I am your host, J. Renee Live. I have an amazing guest today. Okay. And we are continuing our series on God's extraordinary daughters. And this is my second guest of the series. Her name is Ann-Gela Holloway. She is an amazing business owner. She is a writer, a poet, an actress. My goodness, she does so many things. And I am so glad to have her on here today. We are going to specifically talk about Ann-Gela's book. And the name of her book is Let Me Tell You What I Know. Now, that kind of sounds like something maybe, my mom used to say, girl, let me tell you what I know. I'm not quite sure if that is the tone by which she is thinking it when she wrote this book, but I feel like it's very anecdotal to life. And I am so glad to have her here today. So Ann-Gela, thank you for being my guest. Thank you for sharing time with me and really allowing us to kind of peek into your heart and your mind when you wrote this book. So let's get started. God's Extraordinary Daughters. I invited you, Ann-Gela, because I have watched you from a distance and kind of, we've interacted a bit, but I've watched you develop this platform on social media. And I know it's not always, us trying to brand ourselves or trying to, show off. But when, like you say, be your authentic self, when that shines, people can't ignore it. So I have been watching and I'm like, I need to know this woman. And I want to have her on my show because I have enjoyed some of your very interesting stories that you've shared with me in social media about yourself. And so we're going to dive in. The first thing I want to talk about, Ann-Gela, is you. You're a mom.
Yes.
You have two wonderful sons. You
Yes.
shared that in your book as well. And you are a business owner, Ann-Gela Holloway Consulting. You help individuals professionally and personally. You coach professionally, life coaching, and also professional coaching, such as resume writing, professional pursuits. You help people organize their pursuits in business for whether it's to climb the ladder of success, whether it's to change careers. And you have had great success with that. But what else would you like us to know about Ann-Gela?
Well, first, thank you so much for inviting me to the platform. I do not take it for granted when someone sees little old me and says, I want to talk with her. So thank you for that. It's my pleasure to be here. I'm battling a little bit of a cold. So if I have like a deep, sultry voice, that's because of the cold. So
deep and sultry is nice. It's nothing wrong with deep and sultry, honey.
It can stick around for a little bit of radio voice. So what else about Ann-Gela? Ann-Gela is... the first word that comes to mind is Ann-Gela is goofy, but I'm serious and I handle my business, but I handle it with a laugh. And I don't take life too seriously, believe it or not, because I have learned how to leave things in God's hands. So, the only thing serious is death. And even with that, we all gonna go sometimes. So I could be a bit goofy, a bit easygoing, but it has helped me tremendously to navigate life without taking it or myself too seriously.
Awesome. And so I want to kind of share, because I don't know if you thought I forgot, but I did not forget. Ann-Gela has shared with me some interesting things about herself. Ann-Gela loves to read. And I remember you sharing growing up, you used to love to read, and maybe you still do, love to read the encyclopedia. Now, many of us have not seen an Encyclopedia Britannica since we were kids, teenagers. Like when you said it, I'm like, oh my gosh, I have not. The salesman used to come to your, door trying to sell you the whole set. And apparently your mom or whoever, was an influence in your life, had a set. And good old Ann-Gela read through those things. Tell me a little bit about what inspires you to read or desire to consume information in such amounts. What does that do for you? And how can you describe that to us?
So I use the term informationalist. I don't know if that's a term, but if not, I coined it right now. I'm an informationalist. I love information. Kind of like how people are nosy about people. I'm nosy about the world, if that makes sense. Like I want to
It
know how
does.
things work. And so the encyclopedias, this had to be God ordained because my parents divorced when I was young, 3. After that, we kind of went, my brothers say, from middle class to poor. So we wasn't going to be buying any encyclopedias after the divorce. So this had to happen right before they split, where they bought a set of encyclopedias, 28 volumes, and I have read through them all. It was
Wow.
exciting for me to like read information. And so now when I'm watching Jeopardy and I get a lot of questions right, people know where it comes from. Like, I read that years ago. So
Wow. And then you remember it. So it's not only that Ann-Gela is literally literally read the encyclopedia, she remembers. You have an elephant brain. That's what it sounds like to me.
I do. I do. So let me let you in on a little secret, but don't hate. All
I won't,
throughout
I
high
promise.
school, all throughout high school, I never studied. And I actually graduated first in my class, valedictorian, without ever studying. Now, I did take very good notes. So if I took good notes, I guess I have the photographic memory.
Mm-hmm.
If I took a note, I remembered it. And so when it came time for the test, I was able to recall it. So I do have that kind of memory. Didn't actually work in college, but it worked all throughout high school. I can remember facts and figures and things about people. So it's a gift.
No, I can identify with that. I don't hate because I believe I am the same way to a degree. I have a photographic memory, and also an audiographic memory, if that makes sense. If that's a word. I just coined it. I don't know.
There we go.
But if I heard it, I usually can remember it. And if I wrote it or saw it, I can remember it. So for me, I can sit through a lecture or, something informative, like you've mentioned, and I will remember what you said. Now, not verbatim, but I will remember, like if you asked me, hey, what did so-and-so say about, Greenland? I would remember, I would remember things like that. And I wasn't a studier, but if I looked at the page long enough, if I, stayed on that page in the book long enough, I would remember what I saw. Elements and what color things were and things like that, and numbers. So I totally identify. I don't think I'm to your caliber, Ann-Gela. I don't think I'm there, but I'm like a little bit. So I do understand. And that is a very brilliant mind you have there. So now let's talk about this book, because there's a couple of things that I want to discuss about this book. And because we don't want to give the book away, we don't want to just sit here and, tell all the goods, because you're going to have to buy the book, people. You're going to have to go and get the book. But there were a couple of things that you mentioned in this book. If I am describing this correctly, Ann-Gela, you laid this book out in a way where you are sharing life experiences as a way of displaying the hand of God in life's lessons. So it's like lessons and experience, but God is a catalyst. He's the designer. He's the one that navigates us through them. But you made it in a way that we can understand them, these lessons, by reading your experience. Am I pretty much kind of describing that?
Absolutely. Perfectly. Yes.
Awesome. So there's a couple of topics in here I want to discuss. And the first one is trust God. When you think about trusting God, Ann-Gela, what is the easiest part for you, and what is the hardest part of trusting God? Through your life experiences, you've been through many things, and you and I have similar experiences. What is it that you can say, this is the easiest part about trusting God, but this is the hardest part about trusting God?
The easiest part about trusting God is that nothing comes as a surprise to God. That's the easy part. The hard part is that nothing comes as a surprise to God. So, I mean, we can't hide anything. And even if it's painful, it's like, okay, somehow this is going to work out for the good, not just
Yes.
my good, but the good. Like
Yes.
even the encyclopedia example, who know why my parents bought an encyclopedia set? They literally bought it just for me so that I can have all this knowledge that I think I've used it thus far and still have time to use it. But who knew that that purchase on that Saturday when the salesman came to the house had a deeper purpose? So our
Yes.
steps are ordered and God has a reason behind stuff,
Yeah.
and trusting him. I'll share this. This is not in the book because I actually started writing the book like in 2015, published it in 2020. I recently bought my first house. And
Congratulations, by the way. I'm so happy for
thank
you.
you. Thank you. Thank you. I wanted a house for 20 years, literally, maybe more, maybe longer than 20. Now, was I prepared to buy a house? No. But I had a fit and a tantrum every time I got turned down for a loan because God should be giving me a house. I need a house. I deserve a house. Yeah, my credit score is 500, but remember that other couple that got a house with a 400 credit score? Remember that other couple that got a house with no money down or 1500 down? God, can I catch a break? Now that I'm sitting in the house, I'm like, okay, God, I know what you're saying now. I'm sorry I had a tantrum because truth be told, I just wasn't ready. And there's a scripture that talks about, I believe, no good thing will he withhold from you. I don't want to
Yes.
use it incorrectly, but God was not going to have me in no house just to have it taken from me. I wasn't ready. I could say it publicly where however far this podcast goes, I wasn't ready. I wanted
Yes.
it, but I wasn't ready, especially since I've been in here and the things that I've had to come up with financially, but I got it. God had to do a whole work in me, and I can talk about that for hours, and doing things in me so that I can get ready for the thing I really wanted. It
Yeah.
wasn't as simple as I couldn't go here with lousy credit. You know how many things I financed since I've been here? That wasn't going to happen. I couldn't
Right.
go in here without a solid down payment. You know how many times I've had to go to my bank account since I've been here? So God was not letting me go through this half heartedly. He wasn't going to
Yeah.
let me do it. And as much as I cried and rolled on the floor, and the way God talks to me, probably like, you done now? Because he
Yeah.
loved me, but he's like, you done now? But a house. He's like, well, you're going to get a house, but let me do this first. I'll share this too. When I first asked God about my money, I would say 2018, I said, I've been employed my whole adult life. I've been promoted. Where my money at? Why am I not buying houses and hot tubs? Where's the money at? And God was probably like, thank you for asking. And surprisingly, he didn't put me on a budget at that time. What he did was brought me to my closet and he exposed the spirit of shame. And he said, that's where all your money is going. Because where your heart is, your treasure is also.
Yes.
And I was buying clothes to kind of cover up the way that I felt about myself. And I literally had thousands of dollars of clothes sitting in closet, baskets, waiting to be washed, waiting to be dried, because that's where I thought my face was in these clothes. And so he healed me from the spirit of shame. He revealed it and began to heal me from the spirit of shame. And do you know that took care of my money? Who knew?
Who
So all
knew?
those years I'm begging for a house, asking for a house, and didn't have the money, that root of shame was the operating system. So he had to heal me from that in order to do this, in order to do this, and now eventually do that. So that's why I say trust God, because he'll take these steps that don't seem like you're going in the right direction, but you are. He'll bring
Yes.
you south, and you're like, I'm supposed to be going up north. Just trust him. He'll bring you south. Maybe you got to do a loophole. Maybe there's an accident up north, but you got to go south. He'll bring you around this way. He's going to eventually get you back north, but you have to trust him. So I don't know if that made any lick of sense, but that's
Yes, it
how I
did.
see.
Angela, listen, what it shares with us is that we do not have the wisdom of God and we cannot perceive his thoughts. And so the reality of it is not always A to B. There are some things because we get so self-centered and we think, Lord, all you have to do is just give me the house. And he's like, no, what I'm going to do is there's someone in that house who I want to bless with another house to make that house available to you. And then in the meantime, I want to work on you, like you said, over here, because you think it's just a matter of God blessing us, but he also wants us fit for the blessing. And is in his love sees the bigger picture. It just doesn't see us acquiring our desires. It sees us being fit to steward our desires. And so the Lord wants us properly prepared for the things that he has for us. And there are some things in us that are in the way. And you know, we're like, oh, me, God? Oh, right. No, I can't possibly, Lord, I would never. And he's like, no, yeah, there's some pride in you. There's this in you. There's that in you. And those things will sabotage what I'm trying to give you. And I waste nothing. And so the Lord does not waste anything. And it sounds to me like he wanted for you to enjoy this. And again, as scripture says, the blessing of God, it makes rich. You know, it blesses us. It doesn't add sorrow. And so that would have been a lot of sorrow to share with the world that you have bought your home, and then within a year or two, you know, 3, you know, you lost your house because there were things in you that weren't properly addressed and stewarded well. And so I just thank God for even your willingness to trust him, and to let him lead you on some inner healing and some deliverance, so that you could literally walk with your head held high, you know, without shame, without fear, as you venture into home ownership and make your home beautiful for your children. And so God bless you for that. And I think that's a lesson for all of us to take in. Now, the next one we want to talk about is love people. Ann-Gela, give us an idea, because I have one. I can share this. I had an experience with the Lord the other day, but this episode is featuring you, so I'll share after you share. But please share with us what has been the greatest challenge for you when it comes to loving people.
So for me, and it may be different than what other people may answer this, but for me, it literally came down to loving myself. And I know folks say you can't love anybody till you love yourself. And that was me. I can recall standing in the grocery store line, because God be meeting me everywhere. And I'm in line. And of course, people are frustrated because it's like more people than there are cashiers. But I'm standing there. I'm like, I'm cool. I'm not in a rush. I'm great. And I'm looking at the folks shopping, this family, this couple, this family, people shopping out about their day. Excuse me again.
It's okay. Take a sip of water, sis. We'll make sure we get you good. No worries. All so right. You're in the grocery store, and
yes,
and there's couples over here, there's people in the line, but you're cool.
And I'm looking at them, I'm like, wow, I felt amazing love for them and for myself that I never felt before. I was like, this must be what it feels like to love people. Because previously, in my previous life, if you will, I would have looked at them with jealousy. She has a husband. That kid is cute. I'm ugly. This person has got a whole cart full of groceries. They must have money. I got a little bit. I don't have money. Wow. There would have been jealousy, envy, hate from myself that would have translated to these people who didn't even know me. And so when I'm in the line that day and I realized I love these people, or not love them, because I'll clarify that too, because I don't love everybody, because that was a sign when I had no boundaries. Everybody come on in, and that was wrong too. But to have love for people, to have love for mankind really stemmed from me having love for myself. Yes, compassion. When I felt left out, when I felt orphaned, when I felt left behind, I had no love for everybody else because it felt like they were ahead of me. They had all the things I wanted. So it was a jealousy, like a jealous sister. And when I really began to love myself and know that God loved me, it really helped me to love other people. So that's when I realized it. Like when I'm better as with me, I'm better towards other people.
Wow. That, is amazing. And I think a lot of times we don't identify how when we have self-hate, it literally is projected onto others. And it's we can sometimes miss it. You know what I mean? We feel sorry for ourselves, self-pity or any of those things. And it starts infecting our sight, looking at
Yes.
others, and for me, love people. I've been having an encounter for, about a good month or so with the Lord about my understanding of love, and more so on the level of service and humility towards others. And I, had an encounter with the Lord the other day. I was at a fellowship service. We were just wrapping it up and we were worshiping at the end. And I just, the word of God was about, the word that was, preached was about leadership and the attributes of a leader. And I was hearing what was being said and it was pricking my heart. And I said, Lord, I want to love like you. I grew up in a very religious environment, in a religious ministry. And for me, I don't recall ever being taught how to love and serve others. I recall being taught how to obey, how to be at church and attend, like the works of obedience, in the sense of staying out of trouble, avoiding sin. But I wasn't taught the evangelistical part of loving and serving others, and how simply just being the hands and feet of Jesus can literally draw someone to the Lord. I didn't see that practice, nor was I taught how to apply it to my life. And so here I am, just this weekend, this is Sunday, yesterday, I'm sitting there with the Lord, and I said, so many years have been wasted. I'm 40 years old, and I am just now learning. I married an evangelist, and I look at how my husband has a compassion, how his heart breaks when he sees someone pass away who didn't know the Lord, and or how he wants to help others. And I'm like, wow, you really care about people. Like, how do you care so much? But because he is walking in the heart of God. And I want that, and I desire that. And I no longer want to do works. So I said, Lord, teach me how to love like you love. And I just, yielded my heart and my mind and said, search me with your light. And anything that is religious or against love, or that works against love, take it from me, because I want to see like you. I want to look at someone and not their sin. I want to see their heart. Religion teaches you to look at sin and call it out, so that in efforts to turn their heart to God. But he looks at the gifts and the abilities that he put in us, and wants those to come forward. So Ann-Gela, when I read Love People, I'm like, oh my gosh, yeah, I'm right there. And like you said, how God has dealt with you about it is a different angle that he's dealing with me about it. And then the readers of this book, it could have been different for them too. But that simple statement, love people, can be ministered to in so many different ways, Ann-Gela. So now when I see someone, I'm looking for how I can serve. And that pulls me out of a seat of judgment, right? Out of a seat of comparison, even where I am, where they are. And it makes me, they're equal. And I can look at you and say, wow, sir, that must be tough, but God can heal. God is great. God loves you. Or what can I do for you? And so, that leads me to the next one, where it talks about show up as your authentic self. Because now who we truly are is underneath all those hurts and brokenness and things that we've, traumas, everything, who we are is like underneath all that. So at least for me. But when you say show up as your authentic self, what does that mean for Ann-Gela?
So what it means for Ann-Gela, actually, can I go back to what you said about love? Because you touched on something that it really resonates with me. So I saw something floating around Facebook, And it was supposedly something from workers at a food bank that was giving people tips on what to actually donate, which I love because I will never forget when I was in high school, we volunteered at the community action agency. It was a Saturday project. And so so all the food donations we separated to like kind of make it like a grocery store. And we were able to take a bag of stuff home, which we did. And I remember getting the stuff home and everything was stale because people think they're giving because they go grab whatever's been sitting in their cabinet or their basement and they go bring it to the shelter or the food bank thinking they're doing something works. And they give people stale stuff. So I learned that years ago. Go buy stuff if you really want to bless the family. But this particular Facebook meme was taking it to the next level. What do people actually need? They were saying a lot of people love to give the Kraft mac and cheese. Great. But you also need milk and butter for that, which are the perishable items. So maybe stay away from that or get canned milk or something. And this is what you were talking about. Like we show up for works. I worked at the homeless shelter. I volunteered today, but what did you really do? Did you even ask the people who are people just like you what they actually need?
Yeah.
Or I gave some old food out the shelter. I gave this coat. I'm sure they'll like it. Beggars can't be choosers. Hello, they're still people.
Yeah.
And if you still love people and want to serve, you want to serve them from their place of their need.
Yes.
My oldest brother, who has passed on, I dedicate the book to him.
Yes.
Him and my parents. My parents are alive, but he has passed. He spent a good part of his life living on the streets. And to be honest, it was by choice because he did deal with some demons, drugs, and alcohol. He didn't want to be in nobody's house with rules. He didn't want to pay rent. He had a ball on the street. And I know we might see homeless people and think, we got to get them off those streets. What do they need? If you would ask my brother, I'm good. Like he was good there. That's what he wanted to do. But do we even ask people what they want? We just throw out this blanket Christianity, this blanket help. Do we even ask them what do they really want? Someone might tell you even now, I'm good out here. Just give me a blanket. Or I'm good out here. I don't need all that from you. I'm good. Because whether we think it is a good choice or not, they do have the right of choice. Yes. So I love what you said about truly loving. That's how you truly serve. When you truly see people with the love of Christ and the eyes of love, that's how you serve. Not just giving people whatever you want, but what they actually need. So I just had to just piggyback on that.
You're absolutely, I mean, Ann-Gela, that is the epitome of caring, is literally asking someone what they need. You know, I'll say this little joking story. My dad has this habit of giving my mother, gifts that she's like, what in the world? So, and I think maybe, I don't want to say all men, some men may have this issue or this challenge, I should say, where they give gifts based on what they like than opposed to what their wife or girlfriend likes. And so my dad would always buy my mom gifts based on things that he liked. And I remember one year, I guess my mom must have just had it. My dad bought my mother some, oh goodness, what was the name of Dolce & Gabbana sunglasses. And I mean, they were like the big ones, and they had matching pair. And my mom is, little petite woman. She was like, these things are like half the size of my face. Like, why would you buy me these? I would never. I don't even wear sunglasses. But I definitely wouldn't wear something that takes up most of my face. My peripheral vision is cut off because the sides are so thick. And he thought it was the best thing because he liked his. And why wouldn't you like it? And it's like, that's just an example. And I mean, my mom was just not happy about that. And but he spent this money, so in his mind, these are expensive sunglasses. These are Dolce & Gabbana. She's like, I don't care. I don't like them. And, someone say, oh, well, she's ungrateful or whatever. I mean, he didn't say that, but, speculating, you would say, man, he spent money on that gift, but all that didn't matter if it doesn't meet the person's desire or need. And so I shared that to say how even going all out and doing these big things without even inquiring of the person, what do you want? What do you need? Because I want to fulfill that for you. And that brings success to my intentions. You know what I mean? So I just, you made me think about that with the whole Dolce & Gabbana sunglasses. It's like, yeah, no, that's not what we're doing today. But yes, so going into show up as your authentic self, what if you had to describe Ann-Gela using just single word descriptions, who is Ann-Gela's authentic self? How would you describe Ann-Gela, especially today and right now?
Today, Ann-Gela is goofy. Ann-Gela is organized. Ann-Gela is laid back. Ann-Gela is bold and adventurous. And Ann-Gela is trusting.
These things, now, I remember you asked that question on social media and I answered you, and you said, if to describe me in 1 or 2 words, I think you said, and I said cautious and calculated. And you were like, I need to think about that. I said, I wonder tell me now, since we're here, Ann-Gela, how did you interpret those words? What did they give you a positive or a negative when you hear the word cautious and calculated? What does that interpret to you? Like, how did you receive that?
To be honest, I received it prophetically because I know I could be an overthinker, and I've been hearing lately, let go, let go, let go. And so for you to say that, is like, okay, you see that I'm holding on to stuff clearly, and I have to let go. So yes, I say I'm adventurous, and I am, but when I do an adventure, you best believe I thought about it 20 times.
This is a calculated adventure.
Okay. The plan down, like I'm that person. When I take a trip, and generally when I leave, my son is with my family. I don't have like a hire nanny. So he's with family, but they know everything about my itinerary. They know everywhere I'm going. I'm like, listen, if you hear, this plane crash or this train derailed, that's the one I'm on. Like, it could be no mystery. Like, where's Ann-Gela? She's not back. You're going to know, because I'm giving you all the information so that, I'm covering all the bases. And so many times, even now, I hear God saying, let go, let go. So yes, that just rang very prophetic to me. Like, oh boy, my cautiousness and calculations are showing.
Well, honestly, I can't say that they are. That's what I heard when I read it. Those words came right to me. Honestly, I didn't sit there and like, I've been noticing this. Honestly, it literally was not from a place of research or thought. I literally heard those 2 words and I typed it without even hesitation. So yes, prophetic, but definitely not something I could say, oh yeah, I noticed you're very, or, when you do that, like, honestly, it was not from me. That was from the Lord. And so, yeah, that those are not my personal feelings, but I didn't get I didn't necessarily feel like it was, a negative thing. And I think in some ways we all can be calculated and cautious in ways that prohibit us from truly living fully. And so while they have their place in other areas, while they can be a help in one area, they can be a restraint and a hold back in another area. You know what I mean? And so I think we should value those things, when they are most helpful, but then in ways when they start to hinder us, we should definitely, like you said, the Lord says, let go. And it's like, okay, this caution is causing me not to enjoy this experience, or is limiting my experience. I need to let go. But over here, that caution, it aligns with my discernment, and it helps me avoid, really, like you said, it helps me with my boundaries. It helps me,
right.
It protects me. So I don't think, in all cases, those things are bad for us, but maybe there's areas that God's like, hey, right here, I'm gonna need you to just kick your shoes off.
True.
You know what I mean? And enjoy those things that are happening to you and for you. For my authentic self, I think, hitting 40, it was just like, oh, okay, I know who I am now. Okay, you know what I mean? Like right now, I'm like so unapologetic to me, not worried about other people, but like, I'm going to stop apologizing to myself for what God is sculpting in my heart, you know what I mean? And where he's navigating me. I can't keep, denying myself the experience God is trying to give me. And so, yeah, authentic self, absolutely. They always say you hit 40, things just start happening.
Yeah, 40 was the game changer.
What's that?
40 was the game changer for me. I threw myself a party when I turned 40, and one of my friends was like, great party, but I can't believe you threw a party. I hated turning 40. I was in the bed for a week. I was like, oh no, this was a rebirth for me. Yes. It was literally the line of demarcation between then, the old Ann-Gela, and the new Ann-Gela. When I turned 40, it was like, it was on. And yes, I'm 44 now, but even in these 4 years, what's been happening? It's like, oh, I can't wait to hit 45. The world ain't seen nothing yet.
Come through here, Ann-Gela. Can't wait for your 45. I want to know. Listen, that sounds amazing to me. And, on our final one here, be understood and seek to understand. And Ann-Gela, I have to be honest with you, this is a big one for me. I don't know about you, but I find that I can be often misunderstood. I've dealt with some matters in the most recent months, weeks, years, days, even, where my intentions, my heart, has not been properly seen, being misunderstood. And, I truly am a believer in emotional intelligence. I believe that if we can acquire emotional intelligence, we can literally quench the fiery darts of Satan, because he likes to see us be misunderstood and not understand. And when we function in emotional intelligence, which I believe is a God-given ability, and we walk in discernment, we can see the enemy trying to manipulate our experience, whether it's what we're hearing or what we're saying. And one thing I have always hated was being misunderstood, because it makes me feel unseen. It makes me feel unheard. And I'm like, no, that's not what I said. That's not what I meant. And I meant this, and I try to be as articulate as possible. But somehow the enemy gets in there and muddies the waters, and now there's conflict and there's issue. So what would be your advice to those listeners who are struggling to be understood and struggling to understand? What have you learned in your experience, without giving the all the goodies from the book? What would you say to someone who says, I feel like people always misunderstand me, like I don't think I'm understood? What would you say?
All right, so I've got a real life example of this that's presently happening. So something at work, and I made a decision as a manager, and I stand by my decision, but now there's some paperwork that has to be done. And the person that sent the paperwork, and she threw some shade, in there, because you did this and because you decided to do that, and that kind of thing. And she's like, now we got all this paperwork kind of thing. And I said, okay. Now I will tell you this. I wrote this book, and my therapist is very funny. I'll be talking to her about something, and she's like, did you read your book? Go back and read chapter 3, 4.
Take your own medicine, honey.
Yes. So trust and believe. This is not me telling you what I know and walking away in the sunset. No, it's me going back to what God told me to tell everybody, including me, because I need it. Yes. And so I responded. It took a day, and I responded to her email, but it took an hour of me telling her what I really wanted to tell her, and then deleting it and saying, okay, because at the end of the day, I can give her words. I gave her words when I first, she's like, well, why did you do it? I gave her what I thought was a good explanation. Apparently that wasn't good enough for her, but she was probably just mad. So nothing I was going to say was going to make it feel any better. And this email chain could have gone back and forth for a couple of days, couple of weeks, and been the me and her bumping heads about this thing. Or it could be what it is now, simply paperwork, because I listened to God. I wrestle with this thing now. If you can see the edits, I told her this and I told her that. Well, first of all, I didn't just decide to do this. We had a deadline. I had it all in there professionally. Yes. But I ended up erasing it and saying, okay, when I can finish the form, do I send it back to you? Boom. And I'm not saying, I know a soft answer turns away wrath. I don't know if her wrath is turned down, but mine is turned down because it's not even an issue. And so sometimes we do speak too much in defense of ourselves. And sometimes less words are best when you want to be understood. But I got to let you know why I did it. Maybe you don't. Yeah. And part of when people say I'm bold and confident, I think it comes from that fact, like, I don't have to defend myself all the time. I definitely don't have to throw shade at you and run you down to the ground just to prove my point. My point is my point. You may never see it. 10 emails, 10 arguments. You may never see my point. So why do I do both of us a favor, save our breath, and just say, okay.
Yes.
And so that's, when you're seeking to understand, seeking to be understood. Seeking to understand is that people do things for reasons that 99% of the time have nothing to do with you. Even our beloved children or spouse. They just going to be why did your husband leave that open? Because he forgot. It wasn't like I'm going to purposely tick off my wife today or I hate this house. No, he may have forgotten. And so when you seek to understand like that, people do things for their own reasons that you may never know. We don't have to take it personal. At the start of the pandemic, someone I know posted about people wearing masks in their car by themselves. How stupid. And I gave him a thought. Actually, I did a whole separate post and he saw, and he's like, you know what? You helped me change my mind. I said, well, thank you. I said, well, people can wear a mask in the car by themselves because first of all, you're not in their car. You don't know who they got back there. First of all, maybe they got someone in there. Maybe they're an Uber driver. So just because of all the people that pass through, they keep their mask on.
Right.
Maybe they got somebody Uber Eats there. Please don't breathe on my food, sir, ma'am. So that's why they got their mask on. Maybe they're 2 minutes away from their destination and they popped it on already. You just see them around a corner by themselves. And you're like, they got a mask on, stupid. You don't know, again, who's elderly or who's young in that back seat that you can't see. You don't know if they just left the store and put it on. And as soon as they get out of your eyesight, they say, oh, let me take this mask off. But because you saw them for a few seconds with the mask on in the car by themselves, you're calling them stupid. Well, you must be God himself to even know that much about what's going on in someone's car or someone's mind. So people do things for reasons that have nothing to do with us. And so when you seek to understand, just say, you know what, they're doing that for some reasons that I don't know, but it's a very real reason to them. And I don't have to take it personal and it doesn't have to necessarily ruin my day. And so that's when I think about seeking to be understood and how to understand other people. Let folks do what they're called to do or what they choose to do. They're doing it for some reason, unbeknownst to us. Don't have to take it personal and we can let it slide.
I mean, Angela, that's an excellent example. I think that all speaks to compassion and a little dose of mind your business. Worry about yourself.
Oh yeah.
All wrapped up in one. I mean, I just feel like, I've learned to scale back what I take in from others around me. And even I heard a woman speak about this on the radio show. I can't remember what it was, but she said when she sees a woman carrying herself in a very distasteful way, she said, when she gave her heart to God, when she started to let God deal with her heart, she went from, oh my gosh, she looks a mess. Like, what in the world? She went from that to, I wonder what happened in her life to make her feel like she has to carry herself that way. So it made her turn to a mindset of compassion. Like, wow, what could have happened that you would degrade yourself to that level to carry yourself that way? Like, what in the world could have happened? And it must have been horrible. You must be hurting because you have allowed these situations to just demean you to a point where you're denying your self-worth. You're worth more than what you're doing and how you're behaving, and you know what I'm saying, and the carrying on. And it's like that lens of compassion allowed her to be prayerful. It allowed her to be thoughtful. And if there was an opportunity, maybe to serve that woman in some way that will bless her life. And so I think, that's what it boils down to me, be understood and seek to understand deals with compassion and understanding of things outside of your own brain. Like, we are not the end all be all of what should and shouldn't be. It's just like, you do know people can make up their own minds. You do know, I do understand that certain things affect us and some things don't, but like to the level where it's like, okay, come on. How much of that really is about you and why does it matter? What happens. But I do believe the more we seek to understand and be understood, our communication levels as a people grow, our compassion grows, our kindness grows, and I find that very valuable, to us, even as women, from women to women, from sister to sister, from, mom to mom, from, you know what I mean? We could really have better villages of women and of people if we follow that. Be understood, be clear, don't be passive aggressive, speak your heart, speak your mind, say what you want to say and mean it. We do that in my house all the time. I said what I said, like, I meant that, you know what I mean? And if I didn't mean it, I have a responsibility to, apologize and ask for forgiveness for what I said, or change my mind, which is still something that I have a right to do.
Right.
And so I think it just allowing people to be individuals and stop wanting everyone to be just like us.
Right.
You know what
right.
I mean?
When we don't even like us half the time.
Right?
It's funny. One of the things that my boyfriend says, because this year, in addition to having a new house, I'm in a new relationship.
Like, yeah, girl, I saw that post. I said, come through, Ann-Gela, with the double portion.
Yes. So one of the things he says to me all the time is, he says, Ann-Gela, you're seasoned, which kind of sounds like I'm old. I'm like, you calling me old?
You just marinated in some good juices, girl.
Yeah, but he's like, no, you like, your words are seasoned. I'm like, well, I've gone through some things, and so that's I don't always get it right. Just keep it real. But for the most part, he sees how I even communicate with him, that there's a seasoning to my words. And he says, I also see that you seek to do right and not be right. Yes. At the end of the day, you want the right thing. You don't want to be the right person. And so I'm like, thank you for that, because that's growth. Yeah. But even with this work situation via email, whatever she says about me right now, she can't say I cussed her out. She can't say I made it worse. She might still think whatever, but she can't say that I did anything wrong via email. She can, at the end of the day, the situation is going to be rectified. I'm going to fill out her forms, but she can't say I did anything else. Yes. She may not ever see my side. She may not ever say, oh, I see why Ann-Gela did it. That would be great. But she may never see that. But she also saw a person that's not combative, is professional. And at the end of the day, the work got done, the paperwork got done, and that's it. I mean, we talk about something to the glory of God. That's it. Whether she ever understands me, whether she's like, this stupid Ann-Gela, I can't help that. I can never help what she thinks about me, but I can't help what she's seen from me. And definitely in black and white in that email, she did not see a woman go off the hinges and, give her a piece of her mind. She definitely didn't see that. So, I feel understood. I feel understood as a woman of God. Now, whether she gets my exact point, not my problem, but she does understand I'm a woman of God and I walk in a certain grace, especially at work.
That's it. And you walk away not feeling regretful of your behavior and not having, because you know what, when we act up, we still got to go back and apologize to the same person that just cussed us out. So it's like, come on, I don't want to have to go back and say, I'm sorry. So let me act right the first time so that I don't have to deal with that later. I mean, I don't know about you, but it's like, I'd rather get this right in round one if I can. So I don't have to backpedal my words, not backpedal, but, apologize for what I said in my actions if I lead in with grace and kindness and wisdom. I don't want to have to go back to the person who still doesn't respect me, but do the right thing and apologize. And it's like, I applaud you for handling it in a way that you don't regret later, because you better believe people would love to find a trail of behavior to use against you as you progress on in your career, and in
Exactly.
your, professional and personal life. And so you don't have to say, oh gosh, I hope no one ever reads those emails. I said some stuff, because emails don't go away. People save them, girl,
Oh, they
archive.
do.
Okay. What we say on social media, the pictures we post, the things we say, somebody screenshotted that and they are waiting. They got their artillery waiting for you to look like you want to be elevated. And here they come. Well, she did this and she did that, or, when the memories pop up on this day 5 years ago.
Like, Facebook still remembers that.
Like, oh Lord, I can't believe I acted like that. Thank God for growth,
Yes,
But I think, that's wonderful for you, that you have a man in your life that can see you. That, one of my first guests in this series, Stefan Jenkins, we talked about having someone in your life that can see you. Mm-hmm. And it's always good to have sisters, but especially, a loved one, a partner that can see you. Yes. And they see the fruit in you. They see the worth in you. And so you are leaving great impressions on those who respect you the most and that are closest to you. And so Ann-Gela, he sees you and is able to identify and describe the value that you have in your worth, honey. That's all that right there.
Yes.
That is a makings of a good relationship right there, when you can be seen for what God has been grooming in you. Right, you know what I mean? Exactly. And he sees it as an asset. Otherwise, he wouldn't acknowledge it the way he did. So I'm happy for you that you have found love and that you are growing in that capacity, your relationship and your career and your pursuits, and, even where your business is going to be going in the near future, and how God is strategizing even that for you. Yes. I'm pretty sure another book is coming in due time. And I'll let you decide when you want to talk about that, on your social media platforms. But, just even writing, and I think you posted a poem that you did a while back. I feel like I saw you post something. It was something you had written that I thought was really beautiful. And this may have been months ago. But even
was it a poem to my younger self?
What's that?
Sorry, was it a poem to my younger self? I think I posted something like that.
Yes. I mean, just even things like that, those reflections, those, those conversations, those inner dialogues, those monologues, that we all have been benefiting from. Keep going, Ann-Gela. You are definitely God's extraordinary daughter, and he's doing extraordinary things in you. And I just really want to close on this one thing. If you could encourage a woman who, let's say, is in her 40s, who is single, who is looking for that next chapter, that phase 2 in her life, how would you encourage her? What would you say to her right now if she's like, I don't even know where this is going. I'm just here, but I want more, and I am just discouraged. What would you say to her to encourage her today?
I would say, dear sis, I want to encourage you in 2 ways. One, before you go for the new thing, look back to the old thing. Now, I'm not talking about old ways of the past, but what were some of the things that God has been speaking to you throughout the years, even in childhood? We started this conversation talking about me going through encyclopedias as a kid. Who knew that 40 years later, whatever it is, that this is a very real thing. The things that I read about in those books are still relevant today. So when you were a child and prayerfully, before innocence was taken away in whatever capacity, there were things that were whispered to you. There were things that you gravitated towards, cooking, or you wanted to be an astronaut, or you wanted to be a mom, or what have you. Those things are still there. God has never forgotten about you. So if it's not here now, then go back to those dreams and know that it's still possible. How do you know? Because you're still breathing. While you breathe, you still have hope. And so it's not over. They say until the fat lady sings, but it's not over as long as you have breath in your body. That I can assure you. And your life can look completely different 6 months from now, a year from now, 3 months from now. Tomorrow, you can get a phone call that you've been waiting on. That was the thing that held me out when there was times when I wanted to literally die. That the next day, it could all be different. I don't want to get into it now without crying, but literally, you can look at your life a month from now, a day from now, a year from now, and it could look totally different. And you're going to be so glad that you didn't give up, that you weren't discouraged, that you didn't go out there and do it on your own, that you waited on God or follow his instructions. Because waiting doesn't mean just sitting there, but you follow his instructions. And remember, he may take you what seems to be the opposite way. You want to go east, and he's like sending you west. Follow his instructions. He got you, sis, and you will end up at your divine destination. I pray that encourages someone.
That is wonderful. I received that even for myself, just trusting the process. I mean, I'm a witness to that. You're a witness to that. Life can change drastically. It overnight. Like you said, you get the phone call. So much can change, and we just have to trust. Listen, so much changed in 3 days. Yes, Jesus, he died on the cross. He rose again. 3 days, the world was. Listen, so we know if Jesus,
in 3 days, the world knew who he was, and what he said he was talking about was true.
That's right. Absolutely. Ann-Gela, I thank you so much for your encouragement. And I just want to encourage you, Ann-Gela, to go and sign up to be on Jeopardy. We want to see you. We want to see you on there. We will all be egging you on and supporting you. You did not read all those encyclopedias for nothing. Go win some money, sister. We want to see you on Jeopardy.
Okay, I did take the test one night, and that test, but it was a long story. My son was a baby. It was even late that night. I shouldn't have even tried to even take a test, but yeah, I can sign up for the test again. Yes.
Go for it. I mean, since there's an open heaven over you right now, honey, you might as well just.
Yes.
Go for it. I believe you have a shot, and I would love to support that and watch you just glow on that stage and win it all. So I think you should go for it. If anyone's listening, and you watch this episode, in the comments, I want you to say, Ann-Gela, go for it. We got your back, Ann-Gela. We want to see you win in every area of your life, not just Jeopardy. We want to see you win it all. So Ann-Gela, thank you so much for being on the InHERview podcast. Listen, you can find Ann-Gela's book on Amazon. Let me tell you what I know. One of my favorite quotes that she said, Life University is open and fully accredited. Life University is open and fully accredited. That means that life is always teaching as long as you want to learn. Yes. And guess what? If you don't take the lesson, life is going to run that course for you another time, and you're going to get this lesson whether you want to or not. It's coming back around. So it stays 24 hours. It's open. And Ann-Gela, your book is wonderful. I hope you go out and read this book. I hope you go out and purchase and download this book. It's available on Kindle, but also paperback. So you can go on Amazon and purchase this book, and you will be blessed by it. And I just, like you said, I think that this is exactly what we all needed. We need to know these paths that God has taken you on, because they help us too. And so, Ann-Gela, thank you so much for sharing your heart with us. Thank you so much for being transparent with us today. I truly hope to have you on again with that next book, that next adventure. I would love to hear the next phase of what God is doing in your life, professionally and personally. But until then, sister, that smile that you have, you are glowing, honey. The happiness, you look light as a feather. Like, I literally looking at you right now, and I'm like, wow. You just look like you're floating. Like, you are just in a place that is so healthy, emotionally and spiritually. It's all over you. And I'm so happy to see you in this place. I don't have a deep personal relationship with you where I know the ins and outs of your life, but I do value what I do have with you. And I just thank you for allowing me to highlight you as God's extraordinary daughter. So until next time, Ann-Gela, may God be with you and bless you. And listeners, please share this episode with your sisters, with your friends, and go out, get that book. It's a holiday season right now. Why not go out and give this book as a gift to someone that you think would be blessed by that story? So go out. It's not a huge book. It is a nice, easy read. You could get through it, you know, in the evening with a cup of coffee or two and, you know, have a little book club about it. Whatever it may be, enjoy it. This is J. Renee. I am your host of the InHERview podcast, and we are out. Ann-Gela, thank you and good night, my dear.
Thank you.
Bye.